On tap for today, folks? Well, we have got Whoopi Goldberg of The View in trouble once again, in hot water. It's bubbling, it's boiling, and she's stuck her foot right in her mouth, and it looks like it's coming right out of the rear view. That's what I affectionately call The View, the rear view, the cackling hens. And this is one of the head cacklers of The View, Whoopi Goldberg. And I'm going to be doing a reaction video to an Access Hollywood piece that basically was put together. And it attributed a lot of quotes to Whoopi Goldberg and how she was trying to sort of backtrack her way once again through this. So let's get right to it and let's take a look and see what's going on here. So remember when Whoopi made this comment, it's not about race, it's about man's inhumanity to other men. And before we get into this, what's this with Whoopi in purple? I mean, is this part of the Color Purple movie that she was into? I guess she looks all right in purple, but she makes this comment, not about race, right? And everybody just jumped on top of her and said, you know what are you talking about? Man's inhumanity to other man, or man's inhumanity to other men, is how she should have said it. Now, here's a situation that I ask you about. She's basically saying that the Jewish people are not a race. There has to be color involved. There has to be like a skin tone color involved. She was just basically saying that was how the Nazis at that time were absolutely being inhuman to other men. Well, don't you think that was also happening when you had slavery going on? And whether that would be white on white slavery or white on black slavery or black on white slavery, depending upon who is being the slave and the slave owner. I mean, we all know that there were black slave owners, black in Africa that enslaved other blacks. We know in Europe there were whites that enslaved other whites. I mean, this has happened within the races and outside the races. So just to say that the Holocaust was about man's inhumanity to other men, that really makes no sense at all. It really doesn't. All her fashion statements. She's always wearing these funny looking glasses. Now, she makes another quote attributed to her best friend that said, not for nothing. Is there no box on the census for the Jewish race? So that leads me to believe that we're probably not a race. So in other words, just because someplace on some type of form made by a government bureaucrat that the word Jewish race isn't there, what does that mean? That just because it says that you're not a race, because you're not on a box, you're not on a form that you can check off? If somebody would have said this about anything else, they would have been called, this would have been a racist, bigoted statement these days. Because there's no box on this, there's no check mark on the census box. This is absolutely incredible, folks. Now she says this. She goes, yes, but that's the killer, isn't it? The oppressor is telling you what you are. Why are you believing them? They're Nazis. Why believe what they're saying? Well, they were the people that were in charge. What are you talking about? They were the ones that had the power. They were the ones that had, the government on their side. They were the one that had, the fascism was on their side. Obviously, Adolf Hitler, that maniac, the dictator. They had power. They had the power of everything. The power of the army, the police, the Gestapo, everything. So it says, The oppressor is telling you what you are. Well, of course the oppressor is going to tell you what you are. They're going to tell what you are. They're going to tell you what you do, when to do it, how to do it, why you're doing it. They're going to do all of that. So, I mean, again, Whoopi Goldberg, I just don't understand where she's, anytime you start talking about Adolf Hitler, the Nazis, what they did, you are stepping in quicksand, folks, because you've got to make, I mean, there's just no other way around it. They were evil. They were absolutely evil. It was an evil empire, no doubt about it. And to say anything otherwise is just literally being an absolute fool. Now it says here, they talk about Whoopi says, well, the Nazis measured the heads and the noses of Jews to prove that they were a distinct race. Again, here she goes back to the fact that it was in terms of, where she was saying it was man's inhumanity to man, all right? But the Nazis were doing different measurements to prove that they were another race. They weren't part of the German race. They weren't part of the German people. That was the whole idea of what they were trying to do, to make them feel as if they were other, lower. And so now she comes back from there and Whoopi says, but they did that to black people too. But it didn't change the fact that you could not tell a Jew on the street. You could find me. In other words, Whoopi is saying, because I'm black, you would have been able to point to me and say, oh, there's a black person amongst all those white people. But you couldn't find them. That was a point that she was making. And it was a very, very stupid point. Because what was happening in sub-Saharan Africa, right? I mean, if there was a black person, there were tribes at that time. And let's say, for example, that there was one tribe that was stronger. They had, more people. They were the dominant tribe at that time. And they decided, tribes always went to war. They were fighting all the time. And so all of a sudden, people are there. Let's just say that people were walking down this, walking in the tundra or in the Sahara Desert or whatever. And all of a sudden somebody comes out and grabs a black person over there. Well, did they know what tribe they were coming? I mean, they obviously knew they weren't from their tribe, but there were also different races within Africa, obviously. I mean, you've got within the African population, you've got different shades of color, just like, in terms of other places. I mean, there's people that are brown skin, lighter brown, dark brown, medium brown. You've got black people that are, their complexion is quite dark, others that isn't. So for her to say that it doesn't change the fact that you could not tell a Jew on the street, you certainly could tell that they were different than the German people. You certainly could tell that. They weren't blonde-haired and blue-eyed. So again, she's trying to make a point, but the point is just absolutely, she's just basically saying stuff that's just absolutely stupid. And so here she was doing some press in London. And she, of course, any good journalist is wanting to basically get clarification on the story, wants to do some background material on somebody that they're going to interview. And there was some controversy that occurred recently. Of course, you're going to try, as a journalist, you're going to try to want to, clarify those statements, go back over those statements, go back over that story. And perhaps, you start asking the questions, and maybe the person steps in it again, or maybe they clarify or they continue with their apology. Whoopi didn't do that. She basically doubled down. She said she tried to convey to the reporter that what she had said and why, and her attempt to recount that time. She said it was never my intention to appear. Now, she said she's not doubling down on hurtful comments, especially after talking with and hearing people like rabbis and old and new friends weighing in again. So she's saying to the London press, hey, I'm not doubling down. I'm just trying to explain what I said before. She would have been better if she just stayed quiet. So let's see what Whoopi continues to do. And so she goes on to say, she goes, I'm still learning a lot. And believe me, I heard everything everyone said to me. She goes on to say that she believes that the Holocaust was about race. And I'm still as sorry now as I was then that I upset, hurt, and angered people. My sincere apologies again, especially to everyone who thought that this was a fresh rehash on the subject. She says it was not. But if you go back, and you'll see what she said. She again said the same exact things that she did 10, 11 months earlier. She's in quicksand right now, folks. I mean, that's what's happening. And she's trying to dig herself out. And I don't think she's learned anything at all. She has not learned a single darn thing. And she said, again, she says in this age of rising anti-Semitism, she wants to be very clear when she says, I have always stood with the Jewish people and always will. My support for them has never wavered, and it never will. She says that every single time she comes out and apologizes. And you know what? She's just doing this basically so that she can, weather the storm. She should have realized either. Now, this was the president there of ABC said that at that time, the remarks that 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 she made were wrong and hurtful, that those comments Whoopi made were absolutely wrong. They were absolutely hurtful. And that, she will be suspended, and she was suspended. Well, they weren't sure at that time what they were going to do, but she was suspended for 2 weeks, folks. That's just literally like a timeout. Oh, you did something wrong. It's a little timeout. Take a 2-week timeout with pay, by the way, and go, do your penance, and then come on back. Now she's going back. And this was a comment that was made from the very first part about when she said the Holocaust is not about race, but man's a humanity man. She should have said it was about both. And then she goes on to say, as Jonathan Greenblatt from the Anti-Defamation League shared, the Holocaust was about the Nazi systematic annihilation of the Jewish people, which they deemed to be an inferior race. She says she stands corrected. Well, she stood corrected for about 10 seconds, and then she continued to basically say exactly the same thing to the London press that she had said previously, which is what got her in trouble now for the second time. And I don't think she's learned a darn thing here, folks. I don't think she's learned anything. But when you're on the left, you can get away with this kind of stuff. So it says here that the Jewish people around the world have always had my support and that will never waver. I'm sorry for the hurt I have caused. I don't know how many more times we're going to take these apologies, but you know what? The people on the left, folks, the people on the right, the people on the left, the leftists, the moderates, the progressives, those hypocrites in Hollywood, those that are working, for the mafia, liberal media establishment, cartels, the alphabet networks, all of them. If you happen to be on the same side as the liberals, the progressive, the leftists, and the Democrats, you can do and say pretty much anything that you want. And if you do happen to step in it, they'll allow you to step out of it. Absolutely. Not only will they clean your shoes and wipe them clean, they'll buy you a brand new pair of shoes so they won't have that stink on them anymore from what you basically said or did to cause the commotion. But if you happen to be a conservative or you happen to be a Republican or happen to be on the right and you step in it, oh my goodness gracious, are you kidding me? They're not going to clean your boots. They're going to throw more stuff at you. That's exactly what they're going to do. So it's just a double standard. It's a hypocrisy. We all know that it's out there. And look, we're not calling for anybody to be fired or anything like that. But the question begs to be asked is, how many times is a person going to have to be told that what they've said, their thought process, what they're saying, what they're doing, what they're thinking is completely wrong? I mean, how many apologies is where we basically draw the line and say, you know what? Maybe it is time. I don't know. But it would be really great to know what you guys think about that. So put those down in the comments. Should she go? Should she stay? Should she just offer a complete another apology? Should she go to sensitivity training? Does she need to go? She's not even Jewish, folks. I think her real name actually, Whoopi Goldberg, that's just a stage name that she picked. I think her name is Corinne or Karen Johnson, for crying out loud. Not only do these people not know anything about race or racial history or anything like that, these guys appropriate names, they appropriate culture, they appropriate religions, they appropriate race, they appropriate everything. But then when they appropriate, it's perfectly, they appropriate gender, right? They appropriate, I think I'll be a male today. I think I'll be a female today. I think I'll be binary. I think I'll be asexual. I think I'll be pansexual. I think I'll be polysexual. I mean, whatever floats their boat, whatever they feel is basically what they're doing. But God forbid somebody else decides to do that. Oh my goodness, you know what? Everyone's going to come out and just completely, go absolutely nutso if somebody were to say similar types of things as Whoopi Goldberg happened to have said. Anyways, we appreciate the time that you took to watch the video. Hope you like my reaction to it. Love to have your comments and what you guys think. And if you haven't already done so, subscribe to our channel. You're watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show here. I'm your guest host for today. My name is Dr. Shaikh, and I'll leave with my final thoughts as I always do, and that is when you're right, you're right, and when you're left, you're wrong. We'll see you again next time, folks. Take care and stay safe.